that able to change on now. As you can see, I've got to do remove these M10 drive. So anyway, let's get it assembled. Good morning, you handsome lot. Today, well, over the next couple of days, we've got a 2016 Vauxhall Astra 1.6 CDTI, and it's having a timing chain replacement. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is go around into the boot, and we're going to disconnect the battery. Now, for those that don't know, this is a fairly large job. What we're going to be doing is putting the seatbelt through the steering wheel like so, removing the steering column from down the bottom there because we have to take the subframe off. Now, there is no easy way of doing this job because it is a big job. We've got to treat it as if we're doing a clutch and flywheel. We need to make a start on removing the gearbox. We're going to get the ECU out of the way so we can get to the top of the gearbox. Now, after pretty much everything is out of the way now, we've just pulled the ECU to one side, disconnected the gear cables, and we've undone the 3 gearbox mount bolts at the back. We've left the front one in because we're going to be doing everything now pretty much underneath. Now, this is where the plot twists and a bit of a curveball. Because I need to be removing the sump on this vehicle as well, we need to support the engine with the frame. So, and to put the frame on, we've got to take, before we put the frame on, we have to take the injectors out, the rocker cover off. It's a big job. Now, I have done my fair few share of these timing chains. Now, every one that I've done, I think I've done 4 or 5, and 4 out of the 5, the spill pipes on the injectors always snap. Now, when you're pricing these jobs up, if you're going to do it yourself, or you're a garage and you're going to get one booked in, make sure that you price up for the spill pipes. Now, once we've removed the rocker cover now, put a little blue roll down the injector holes, and that'll stop anything falling down there. And when you're removing everything, make sure you're putting everything in nice little piles, and if you're not sure where anything goes, just put little bits of paint in them or marker, you know, mark them up. And also, along with any nuts and bolts that you're not sure, if you can, put them back in the holes where they came from. Now, whenever you're doing jobs like this, you've always got to be thinking of the next step, what you need to be doing. Now, before I put that brace on, we have to remove the side of the engine, which includes all the EGR valve and inlet and stuff like that. So we're going to be cracking on. As you can see, I have now got the EGR valve, and there's plenty of nuts and bolts, which is there. And this has, by the looks of it, had a brand new EGR valve on it. Before we put the frame on to support the engine, we're just going to remove this upper timing cover. But before we do, we're going to get ourselves a lovely little piece of cardboard, and when we take a bolt out, we're going to put it in a pattern where they come from, so we're not getting anything mixed up. And just like that, that is that upper timing cover off. Now, to remove it, on the bottom left hand corner, so this bolt here, which is that one there, there's a little 10mm Allen key in there, and what you do, you wind it in. What it does, as it's winding out, it's pulling the timing cover away from the engine. Now, as you can see, I've now got the support frame in place, and we've got a couple of exhaust clamps on the engine hooks with a little bit of a chain-a-rooney. But that engine now is fully supported. We can take it up, and we can get all the dry shafts and ball joints and stuff like that, and then send the car fully up and carry on. I've now got the vehicle fully raised. We've removed the bottom ball joints, tracker ends, anti-roll bar links. We've removed some of the subframe bolts. The only ones we've got left in now are the 2 in the centre. Now, what I did forget to mention, when you're removing the subframe, there's 2 wires. Is it 2 wires? Yeah, 2 wires that go from the steering rack up to like a little fuse box, and then 1 to the earth, and then there's a little plug. You need to remove that, otherwise you're going to be pulling wires everywhere. Yeah, I'm going to get the subframe off now. And there we have it. That is one subframe off right down the back. Now, them are the wires that I was on about. Just got underneath there. Them ones there, and they're on 2 little plugs. Now, when we've removed the EGR coolant, the EGR valve and stuff like that, there was some water spilled. So what we're going to be doing, rather than traipsing in all greasy antifreeze and stuff, we're going to give everything a bit of a brush up. As you can see now, I have got the gearbox removed, which is on the floor there. I've done plenty of gearbox videos for you to watch. All we've got to do now is remove this clutch plate, flywheel. But first of all, I'm going to go for a bit of lunch because we're now at 5 to 1. Well, not bad going, to be honest. Well, we're back from dinner, and we've removed the clutch plate, pressure plate and flywheel, and we've kept everything nice and neat. Now, as you can see, we can see the condition of the timing chain. Now, I think at some point in its life this has already been replaced because the tensioner doesn't look that far out, and normally they're quite a way. I think the only way we're going to be telling is when we remove that tensioner. If there's a little gasket behind it, it's already been done. Now I need to come around this side now, remove the alternator belt, remove the crankshaft pulley, and if we can get it timed up exactly like it is on Autodata. Right, now let's get this engine timed up. Now on the crankshaft itself there's two little dots which lines up to this pulley here. There's two dots and one line. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. The GoPro isn't the best for stuff like this. And what we need to do is get that tool. That goes into the crankshaft and it locks into that little hole right by there. Now let's get round to locking the camshaft. Now this timing pin goes in the exhaust camshaft and it slides through the cam carrier cap, goes through the pulley into a little hole by there. Now sometimes when the chain's a little bit older and a bit stretched, they won't go in. So what we need to do, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, if we get a 22mm spanner now on the camshaft itself and give it a little bit of a tickle, that pin now should fall straight in. Now with that engine now fully timed up, we can go ahead and remove the sump. And the reason why I'm removing the sump is because while I'm taking all the chain and fitting the new chain and stuff, I'm going to get young Ben to give everything a nice clean arooning. Now as you can see, I've got the chain off and it's all in it. I'll show you all that in a minute. This pulley here, it is, I think they call it an anti-rattle pulley, please correct me if I'm wrong, where half the pulley splits and it's on like a spring. Let me put this out of the way. Now what I've had to do, or what you should do, put a little drill bit in it. This is just going to make it easier for you because they're on a big spring. Once you pull them off, they go like that sort of thing. We'll put a drill bit in it and then we can get that pulley and it should slide off a little bit like that. Right, well I've gone ahead, I've ploughed on a little bit. On this vehicle as well, we are putting a brand new oil pump which is from Vauxhall themselves. Now as you can see, I've put the timing chain on and everything marks up. I don't know if you can see it. Everything is aligned up correctly. Now we're going to get back to this tensioner. Now from what happens with these timing chains and why they stretch and God knows what, is the tensioner themselves, it hasn't got a gasket on, and overnight the oil flows back, and where you get your rattle from is filling the tensioner up. Now on the new ones you do get a little gasket where they've updated it, and what happens is it keeps us like a little oil gallery, and that fills up and the oil doesn't flow back, keeping the tension on the chain overnight. Beautiful. Right, I'm going to get this chucked on. Now we are into our second day onto this job. Now I've got the chain on, my light is already up there. The chain is on as you can see, and everything is timed up absolutely perfect. And everything is torqued to spec. Everything's aligned up on the chain. There's little gold marks that go on each pulley, and it is all spot on. Now we have put a new, like I mentioned before, a new oil pump and a new oil pump chain, all new guides all the way through, so this is going to be a good job. Now I've got that much to do because the gentleman of this vehicle has come all the way from Nottingham for me to do it, so I'm going to have to plod on. Right, well I am getting somewhere now. We've got the timing covers on. Now the upper cover in the corners by here and here, you need to put an extra dollop of sealant because they can leak if you don't put enough on. Now let's put the clutch and flywheel back on, but before we do, this timing ring, it needs to go on one way. Now a lot of people have forgotten them in the past, but they will only go back in one way. There's a little indent there and it slides in, and make sure it is nice and cleaned. Right, everything now, the clutch and flywheel is back on the vehicle. We're just about to put the sump on. Make sure all your surfaces are like brand new. Ben's cleaned the sump down for me. We've put a nice thick bead of sealant all the way around. Now when you're replacing it, that rubber O-ring there, make sure you're ordering it from Vauxhall. That is the part number for it. All we've got to do now is get this sump on and get it torqued up. Right, well we are plodding on. I've now got the gearbox back on. It's all bolted back up into the chassis. Now what I did, I put some fresh oil in it, which is some Commer oil. And normally when I do these, I wang it over with the key to get the oil pressure up. Now what I have done, because I've got the injectors out and I've got no compression there whatsoever, I'll show you what I've done. I got on the crank pulley with my long bar and I spun it over like this, as fast as I could, and I could hear the tensioner going click, 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 and then all of a sudden, you could hear like the oil pressure building up, and the tensioner went nice and quiet. So that is where I'm up to right now. I've obviously got to put subframe back on, rock cover on, injectors. With the injectors, I've also got brand new copper washers to go on the bottom of them. So yeah, we're going to be cracking on. Slowly but steadily, we are getting there. We've got the rocker cover back on now and just putting the injectors in. Now what I like to do is take an extra few seconds, just put a little bit of, now we all know, I know, you know, and everybody knows, the injectors in time will need replacing, and they can be a little bit tight coming out. So what I like to do, a little bit of preventative maintenance, a little bit of liquid moly, glow plug and injector grease. We can get them slid in and torqued up. Now I've pretty much finished everything up the top there. I'll come underneath, we've got the subframe back on. Now every single subframe bolt, dry shaft, as I've put copper grease in them, so if it ever has to come back off again, it's going to fly off. I'm going to drop it down now. I've got the dry shaft nuts to put on, anti-roll bar links, wheels, and we can get on the key. Right, well, it is the moment of truth. Does she run? Now, remember right back at the beginning of the video, I'm sorry it's been a long video, but you know, it's one of them, innit? Remember me putting the seatbelt through the steering wheel just in case I needed to start it off the ramp, on the ramp, should I say? Good idea, really. But yeah, put my camera up now. Are we nervous? I don't know. It's got two choices in it. You start. Or it doesn't. Bear in mind, I have already wound it over to build the fuel pressure up. Well, it's alive. Absolutely brilliant. And I tell you what, it sounds beautiful as well. Once we're happy with everything underneath the bonnet, the oil level now is absolutely perfect. I've had it running for about 10-20 minutes. We've got no oil leaks whatsoever. The car is now back on the floor and all together. We've plugged it in. Now, the only fault codes that we've got is for the driver's door modules. Obviously, when you disconnect the batteries on all the Vauxhalls, the windows need calibrating. You just got to take them up and down, and that's it. They're all happy. I'm just going to reset the oil counter now on it, so we've got 100% life on the oil, and then we're going to take it for a little bit of a test drive. Well, now we're out and about. I'll tell you what, for a Friday afternoon, the sun's out. Bit of a black cloud over there. It's probably going to chuck it down as soon as I leave work. But however, the car's driving absolutely faultlessly. We've got no warning lights, nothing whatsoever. No more rattles, clunks. It's driving perfect. Anyway, I hope you've liked the video, and I'm sorry it's been a bit of a long-winded video, but there you go. It's one of them, innit? Right, and that is one timing chain replacement on a Vauxhall Astra 1.6 CDTI. Hope you're all having an awesome weekend. Let's get it sent.